What's that? Oh, we're on now? Well, why didn't you tell me? Yeah, we're paying you a lot of money. You should. Sorry. Anyway, Dane had no idea that the mics were on. The cameras were lit.
Happens to the best of us.
Okay.
Well, not to the best of the two of us. Me, but it happens to you.
Oh,
we've seen.
We all get it. I think if you've stayed tuned for the last 141 episodes,
140.
We all, well, this is 141, so that's including this one. I'm assuming they're going to stay until the end. If they got through 140, they're going to stay till the end of 140.
Yeah.
So anyway, we all know what you think of yourself, Dane. Anyway.
Listen, you got to be your own best friend and cheerleaders.
Seeing as you is a lawyer.
Is you is or is you ain't?
I think he is, so I'll stay where you is. What are the legal ramifications of witnessing a potential homicide?
Well, I mean, nothing to you as the witness, assuming you didn't partake in it. But if you intentionally lie or hide stuff about it, your knowledge about it, that could get you in trouble.
Well, I didn't do any of that, so I don't think I'm going to self-incriminate.
Okay, and you didn't help the murderer?
No, I would never.
Okay,
I
think you're good.
Actually, I might have helped the murderer by just being in traffic.
Oh, okay.
Because as we all know, we live in Florida. Well, and you never know.
That is true.
You never know in Florida. So I was late to one of my clientes because...
That's client for those of you that speak English. David likes to otherly enunciate words, so...
I like to Spanglish every now and again.
Know that.
Sprinkle of Spanglish. Anywho, I was late to work. Not by a lot, but by a little. Like, enough to like where red lights were a problem. So I was like trying to not excessively exceed, but exceed to a modest amount the speed limit. And I was doing fine. Obeying most of the rules of the road, except for that one little nugget. And I get up to a stoplight and I see this lifted truck. He looked like he was a little more aggressively driving, but not overly aggressive for Florida. So it looks like one of those trucks where like it could either be an 18-year-old douchebag or a 40-year-old with a dick problem. Anyway, it's like 40 feet in the air and like has monster truck tires. I don't know if he was late for the rally that day. My whole point being is that I was like, okay. And so I'm pulling up to the stoplight and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to calm down. I'm going to skip past this stupid Spotify advertisement and...
Advertisement.
Yeah. And then I thought I saw like a little... Like, you know how like Floridians like, there's 4 cars in this lane. There's 3 cars in this lane. I could get ahead if I go into this lane. Not to say I'm not guilty of doing it every now and again. We all do it.
It's like that opening scene of Office Space.
It's like you gotta get it. You gotta go. You gotta go. Anyway, so he does that and then he comes back. I was like, no big deal. So I'm skipping the advertisement. By the way, if you're a YouTube there's a by the way. If you're a YouTube advertiser and you can't skip your advertisement within the first 5 seconds of your advertisement, I'm never buying your product ever because all you're doing is standing in the way of my entertainment. I need 5 seconds. Just say, hey, we do this, and then skip it.
Don't we all wish that's all advertising?
Buy our shit. You like this? Buy it. Okay, and then skip. You're good. I got it. I got all I needed in 5 seconds. Don't need any more of it. Otherwise, so I'm skipping the advertisement, and then all of a sudden I hear, whoop, whoop. I was like, what the fuck? And then I look in my rearview mirror. So you know, like those AT&T trucks where it's like a car. It starts off and like the bumper to like the windshield is like a car, and then it turns into a truck from the windshield to like the first 2 seats, and then it grows into this like rectangle in the back.
I'm just gonna say yes so that we get to the next part of the story.
Anyway, he apparently the big truck guy pissed off the little truck guy, and the little truck guy had a fucking problem with that. So I look
Isn't that how it always goes? The big truck guy pissing off the little truck guy.
Motherfucker! Like anyway, the guy's like trying to get into the 40-foot tall truck. He's like, he's 20 feet up going like this. And he's like, fuck you. And then like,
wait, he got out?
He got out of his little AT&T truck and was punching and like saying, fuck you. And like,
wait, so this was like an AT&T worker, the one that says like,
he was
like
on the
the
job.
one that has the
There's
sticker
no
that
way
says, how's my driving on the back of the truck?
He wasn't an AT&T affiliate. No. It was like, but he was on the job. You don't drive that truck unless you're on the job.
The ones,
didn't have
trucks,
the AT&T.
The trucks that have the stickers that say, how's my driving on
They're like, yeah, sure, why not? I didn't see his bumper. I was a little caught up in his road rage. Sorry. And he was behind me. It would have been physically impossible. But hey, while you guys are having that, let me just tootle on back here. Your driving's terrible. He got out a stoplight. It's pretty unsafe. Anyway, so he's like doing this, and then all of a sudden the light turns green. The big truck is like, I'm just gonna avoid this situation. Turns into the left lane, cranks it over. Fucking AT&T guy just cuts it all the way over and like follows him. I was like, did I just see the advent of a murder? What the? Anyway, I'm late. Anyway, so it's like, it took me like 2 seconds to feel bad for the guy. And I was like, then I just kept going. And then like about 10 seconds later, it's like, what would I do in that situation?
Hopefully you wouldn't put yourself in that situation.
How could you not? You're down in Florida. The guy might have accidentally moved a certain way and the other guy was having a bad day.
Wait, so for the first time in all of recorded history, the big truck guy was actually not the bad guy?
He was non-aggressive. Shockingly. And well, it kind of implied me too, because I was like, is he just going to monster truck it over my vehicle?
Let that be a lesson to you folks. The big truck guys' lives matter too.
How do you make that into a hat?
Big truck guys'
T-shirt?
lives matter.
We're going to have to work on that vernacular. Anyway.
Yeah.
I didn't see any posts or anything like that. Big truck guy gets murdered in parking lot by AT&T dude.
Oh, so despite your lead in, there's not actually a murder that occurred.
No, I have no idea.
As far as we know.
But what I'm saying is keep yourself safe out there and have contingency plans, because like when he turned left, obviously big truck guy was trying to avoid the conflagration or conflagration or
my
whatever. My
takeaway from this story is drive a big truck, because if somebody tries to get in it, it's going to be that much harder for them to do.
He's got to climb 20 feet. Yeah. At least you're going to have your stations post and your archers out on the
right.
out on
always keep the high ground.
Exactly. So all that fraught of a story. Dane, you want to get into the main topic?
I think we probably should at some point. Being on now, we're a third of the way to our 30-minute episode we're trying to do here.
Excuse you for being so verbose.
We sat down and we decided this is going to be a 30-minute episode.
We do this every week.
Here we are 10 minutes in, and we haven't even told you what the topics are going to be.
All right, you want a speed round of the topics?
Let's do it.
Meme destruction, Bud Light on funds. Fuck, I can't do it. I don't know.
just...
Bud is light on funds after the rainbow debacle.
The rainbow debacle. That's a good way to put it.
Thank you.
I have nothing else to say. Next one.
A compliment from Dane? What have I done?
They come. You know, they're even much more special when they do come, because they're so rare.
Buckle your seatbelt, Dorothy. All right. Culture Corner. Johnny Boy dicks down Hicks.
Okay.
Nothing? I got nothing out of you with that. Okay. We'll get into it in the Culture Corner. A little upset about that one. Anyway, Epstein, FBI gets boost.
Kind of like your speakers just did when David yelled into your ear hole on that.
Don't make me do anything else to your ear hole. All right. The main.
Move it up first.
The leaker. Who knew Minecraft could be so entertaining?
Every child under the age of like 12
well, that doesn't include us.
That has a video game console.
That doesn't include us.
That is correct. A lot of adults play that game too. Weird.
Ugh. Do you trust any of them?
No.
Exactly. That's my point. So after all that, Dane, I can't believe I didn't hit you with the Culture Corner. That was...
I know, as you were writing it over there
I was
before,
like, he's not going to like this one. And then you're like, I'm okay with it. It's like, nothing? Not even a... Anyway, we've wasted too much time on the
far
floor.
Too much. This is definitely not going to be a 30-minute episode. If you're on your commute to work now and you thought, I'm going to get this bad boy in before I get there because these guys promised me 30
right now, and you're moving fast, and you like this part better than the actual part, write it in the comments. The intro is the awesome part, and then we'll try to do more of that.
Yeah, and if it's not, make sure you tell David it's not, and we'll
tell David to shut the fuck up.
We'll cut him out,
but don't do that because
we'll edit him out. So with that being said, David, are we ready to get into the
I was ready
actual
yesterday until you told that huge truck story.
All right. Well, let's jump in. Welcome to Weapons and Meme Destruction Podcast, episode 141, which can be found at wmdpodcast.com/141. You can get the audio only on any podcast catcher. Just search Weapons of Meme Destruction. You can get the videos on YouTube, Rumble, and Odyssey. You can link up with us on our other socials, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, for $5 a month over at wmdpodcast.com. Support our work tab. You can get into the private members-only Facebook page. And then you can also link up with us on our other, not quite as active socials, mainly run by Nameless Faceless Guy, Float, and what's that word, David?
Tribell.
David's favorite word. So with that being said, let's get into the show. We are talking meme destruction, and in this week's episode of Meme Destruction, we're following up on a topic from last week, but we're actually not destroying a meme this week. We are celebrating a meme. And well, actually celebrating is kind of, maybe we're not celebrating. We're just saying that rather than this meme being destroyed because it's false or otherwise wrong, this meme is actually accurate because it proves itself to be correct over and over again. And that meme is go woke, go broke. You've probably seen or heard this, especially from the libertarian/right side of the political spectrum. That's where the meme originated. And in this week's example of go woke, go broke, actually coming to fruition, we're following up on last week's talking about the Bud Light saga, with Bud Light teaming up with Dylan Mulvaney and the subsequent backlash of traditional Bud Light drinkers saying, "I'm not drinking your garbage beer anymore," as if they needed any more of a reason to not do that.
Hey, pause.
Yep.
You remember being a high schooler? And we're not condoning underage drinking, by the way.
We certainly didn't. We followed all of the rules all the time.
That being said, you remember when we thought that we were having a good night when we were 16 years old and we're like, we're going to go all in. We're going to go fancy and get the Bud Light.
Exactly. Bud Light was the step up.
We were normally Natty Ice.
Normally,
or
it was
no,
natural
not
light.
Natural Light.
Natural light.
That's
normally what it was.
That was
so when somebody splurged for a Bud Light keg,
you're like,
we're like,
dude,
he got money.
We got select one night. Do you know how fancy we got? We damn near put on like tuxedo shirts.
I know. We made like instead of getting your little red Solo cup when you came into that party, you got a champagne glass. It was a plastic one, but champagne glass nonetheless.
Hey, it was.
Do they even still make Bud Select?
Probably not. But did they realize like this is just Bud Light? They're like, shit, they got it.
Yeah, it's Bud Light with a cooler logo.
Wait, is this like just Bud Heavy? It's like, God damn it, they found out.
Yeah, it was like Bud Medium. Anyway, yeah, so Bud Light used to be a step up for us. That's how low down the totem pole of beer we were. But
well, you're a kid. You get your hands on whatever you drink. I think we drank fucking apple schnapps one night.
Yeah, I know, true. So I know this is going to be shocking to many of you who actually inhabit reality, and whatever your thoughts and feelings and hopes and dreams are not what is actual reality most of the time. It turns out when you organize a marketing scheme that is centered around not focusing on your core customer base and in some instances insulting your existing customer base, shocker, that's not going to go well for your company, because in the ensuing couple of weeks since the Dylan Mulvaney Bud Light team up, I have seen figures as wide ranging as 30 to 50% down. There, I read one article that said that like Bud Light distributors were seeing a 30% reduction in the sale of bottled Bud Light. And in places like bars and stuff like that, Bud Light on draft was down 50%. in sales. So much so that Bud Light, which has been like the number one beer in the United States for I don't even know how long, is now losing its crown to beers like Corona and Modelo. I don't know if they overtook Bud Light, but they're climbing the list. And, not that the market is an actual, the stock market is an accurate representation of the economy on a one-to-one scale, but not for nothing. Bud Light lost somewhere between $3 and $6 billion of evaluation on the heels of this campaign. And David and I thought it would be instructive. Maybe you've already seen this video floating around, but the VP of brand management, Alissa, I don't know how to say her last name. It's very German looking, but Heinerscheid. She had some thoughts about why she wanted to do this campaign and where she wanted to take the branding of Bud Light. And it really is just par for the course for all of this DEI, this diversity, equity, and inclusion stuff that's going on in corporations all over the world. So let's hear what Alissa has to say. This is about a minute and 5-second clip.
I'm a businesswoman. I had a really clear job to do when I took over Bud Light. And it was, this brand is in decline. It's been in decline for a really long time. And if we do not attract young drinkers to come and drink this brand, there will be no future for Bud Light. So I had this super clear mandate. It's like we need to evolve and elevate this incredibly iconic brand. And what I brought to that was a belief in, okay, what does evolve and elevate mean? It means inclusivity. It means shifting the tone. It means having a campaign that's truly inclusive and feels lighter and brighter and different and appeals to women and to men. Mm-hmm. And representation is at sort of the heart of evolution. You've got to see people who reflect you in the work. And we had this hangover. I mean, Bud Light had been kind of a brand of bratty, kind of out of touch humor. And it was really important that we had another approach.
Super important. It was super important, Dane.
Well, listen, David, I don't know about you, and I'm going to say this, and it's going to get clipped. And then my explanation for what I mean by this is not going to be discussed at all. But I can pinpoint right in that little minute and 5-second diatribe where she lost it. And it was in about the first second and a half. That started out with, I'm a businesswoman. You lost. Now, that's going to get clipped out and say, Dane's a misogynist and says that women can't lead business. All right, put down the paint chips for 5 seconds. What I mean by that is you very rarely hear anybody say, man or woman, I'm a business X, Y, or Z, on the heels of a monumental fuck up that costs the company that employs you about $3 to $6 billion, somewhere in that range. If your first thought is to say, I'm a businesswoman, or even I'm a businessman, you're not very good at businessy things. If your title says I'm the VP of brand management and you are, leading the charge on marketing, and your marketing causes you to lose anywhere from 30 to 50% of your consumer base virtually overnight, I'd say you're not that good at your job. So step back on the hubris a little bit, step back on the arrogance, step back on the, my way or the highway. I know what's best. I'm going to come in and reinvent the wheel, and everybody's going to thank me for it. Maybe observe a little bit, talk a little bit less. You have 2 eyes, 2 ears, and only 1 mouth. So use it only half as much of the time, and maybe bring some humility to the situation, and you might not screw up so monumentally bad.
Or if maybe another huge corporation had done the exact same thing only years beforehand. I'm sure we were all watching the Super Bowl in 2019. All of us people that used to drink Bud Light. There was a commercial by Gillette saying the best a man can get ? And their new ploy was to attack men and say, shave away the toxicity of being a male. It's like it showed all the things that boys will be boys. A man explaining for a woman in a corporate office. I think what she means to say is, and then there's an attractive girl walking down the sidewalk, and then a guy goes, and he's going to go up to talk to her, and a guy interrupts him and goes, oh, come on, dude. It's like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What are we supposed to take from that?
Everything we do is wrong.
Everything we do is wrong?
Yeah.
Including talking to women?
Yep.
When women's approach angle or approach vector to allow you to approach is this? That's the cue that I'm supposed to get, and then I walk up and talk to her. It's this. And then, God forbid, I'm drinking my Bud Light over here, and I miss the fucking 1 second glance, and now I never make contact with her. She was the love of my life, and there she goes. Yep. Some other guy that didn't miss it.
Sucks to suck, David.
Well, I just want to sum up my point of this while you were mansplaining over there with your toxic masculinity. I just came up with another couple of quotes from, I'm trying to put my foot out there as a sales marketer, businesswoman, just like the other person, whatever her name was. Walmart, hobo fight in aisle 3. The fake housewives of Who Gives a Fuck. McDonald's, shove it down your throat, fatty. And my personal favorite, Tampax, suck it up, buttercup. Because you get it. And then
everything you can to maximally insult your customer base, because that's how you sell products.
That's how you move the product.
That's how you make the brand lighter and brighter and more full.
Right. Yeah. Right. I just want to video games. Get in here, loser. Avoid the sun. Be an incel.
So as you can see, the meme of go woke, go broke turned out to be very literal in Bud Light's case, but the whole thing really belies a deeper truth about all it, because yes, it's a flashy topic in the sense that, a brand pairs with a transgender individual, and that creates all the backlash because that's very low-hanging fruit to call anybody who now refuses to drink Bud Light a bigot or some other undesirable phrase. But really what this is if you pay attention to what she said, did you hear her mention the word beer one time in that 1 minute diatribe? Not a single time. She did say hangover. She did associate what she was talking about with the negative aspects of drinking, but she didn't even mention beer one time. And the only time she mentioned her customer base was to deride them as having fratty, out of touch humor. And in her DEI sort of, pat me on the back effort, which is, not any different than major companies like BlackRock, only investing in companies that follow ESG standards, as opposed to does the company make a good product and has a solid customer base that buys that product reliably, such that profits are worth investing in because this is going to be a profitable going concern for quite some time. No. I think we should invest in the company that is moving toward the most green policy, even though they have nothing to do with that sector of the economy. This sort of like equity and inclusion and airy-fairy kind of, global, climate change, all of these metrics that have nothing to do with, do you make a good product? Do you market that product well? Do you identify your customers' needs well and sell to them? And can you turn a profit that's worthy of investing in? That's simple. That's business. But this whole, modus operandi of DEI and, climate policy and all of that kind of stuff, it's not pushing in that direction at all. So yes, literally, if you go woke in these directions, you will go broke. Learn the lesson from Bud Light and Alissa Heinerscheid or whatever the hell.
Just ask Marvel, ask Disney, ask Gillette, ask whoever the fuck has let their freak woke flag fly and attacked their own personal base. They've lost a lot of money. Hence the phrase, go woke, go broke.
Go broke.
Please.
So With that being said, we're moving on to the Culture Corner segment. We are talking about Jon Stewart grilling Deputy Defense Secretary Kathleen Hicks. It was about an hour-long interview, and we're not going to play the roughly 6 minutes that we're kind of focusing on, but we will put a link down in the comments. We will put a link down in the show notes for this page so you can check it out for yourself. And we highly encourage you to, because if you haven't seen Jon Stewart's little back and forth with Kathleen Hicks, her mannerisms, the way she reacts to an honest critique of her job, really tells you all you need to know about these people. And by these people, I mean the smartest people in the room that feel entitled to rule your life.
If I may.
You may.
Let's report and let them decide.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have to sum up in terms of reporting because, again, really, to do yourself justice on this topic, you should watch the video yourself.
Do we not have the video queued up, or are we not?
We do, but you'd have to play the whole thing in context, and you would have to see her reactions.
I'm sorry. I thought we were going to go,
which is why I just gave that spiel about why I
understand, but I thought you had like a little snippet. But anyway,
I have a 6-minute clip from an hour and change long interview, so no, we're not playing 6 minutes.
It's pretty uncomfortable.
It is.
I don't know if you like uncomfortable situations in movies. It makes my butt clench. Yeah. It makes my stomach unsettling. It makes me want to get anywhere other than there because I put myself in that situation and I never want to be there. So to add on to what Dane was saying is that all Jon Stewart said was the military got audited and it didn't meet the standards and practices of that audit. And he asked what was going to be done about that. And then Miss Hicks replied, I trouble to think to know if you even know what the word audit means. And he goes, I know what audit means. It's like she was already getting defensive. She sat back, smiled, laughed, and then attacked.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Which
every press
I mean
interview that we have with what's the DUI convicted DUI person that's the press secretary for the
Jean-Pierre or something, Corinne,
whatever the hell her name
whatever
is.
The press secretary is.
Yeah, it's every time like they hit her with like just a regular question like why is Biden not able to talk, and they he talks just fine. I don't know if your ears are working, but he talks just fine. It's like when you're trying to demean somebody, when they hit you with something you can't defend, you always like go defensive, laugh, and passive aggressively attack their character.
Right. And I mean, the reason why this is in the Culture Corner segment is because part of what we're trying to do with this podcast and what I think there are signs that the culture is moving in this general direction, and that direction being that the old way of thinking about government by the majority of the population, right? That the government is, at least it's kind of a necessary evil. They're trying to do their best for us. It's better that they're there than they're not there. They may not be the best and the brightest, but they mean well and all that kind of stuff. And government is a really beneficial thing for all of us. And what is slowly, and sometimes not so slowly, peeling away at that facade and showing the average man and woman that the emperor truly has no clothes, and that not only are these people that are running the collective 330 roughly million American lives that these people lord over, is not only are the best and the brightest not doing it, but it's actually the worst and most ill-tempered that are doing it. Because, the prime example of Kathleen Hicks' behavior in responding to, like David was saying, genuine questions. Last time I checked, Hicks, even though you weren't elected to your position, you work for me. My tax dollars pay your salary. So if I have a question, I don't care how insensitive, and Jon Stewart wasn't. He asked you in an honest, respectful way. I don't care how insensitive or insulting the question is. You answer to me because you work for me, and don't forget that. But we always see that from like the likes of Joe Biden that we've talked about on this podcast when he says, what are you going to do with your AR-15 when I have F-15s and bombs? That is fundamentally how these people view you as a citizen. They are there to lord over you. They are not there to rule for you. They are not there to make your life any better. They are not there to make you safer. They are not there to do anything of service to you, despite the fact that the Schoolhouse Rock version of government tells you that's exactly what they're there for. So when people like Kathleen Hicks respond and act as she did to Jon Stewart and that clip, keep that in your memory bank for every single time somebody tries to tell you that these people have your best interest in mind or that they're entitled to tell you how to live your life.
May I inject a little analogy for the younger viewers of our podcast?
Yeah.
So, okay, kids. Imagine you're walking down the street. You walk by every human. They look human because they're the same size, same shape, and you have to give them their due because they take up the same amount of space as you do. Now imagine you get onto a plane with 200 other people, and you take off. Then, as you progress up, you see humans, and then they become ants. Then they become microscopic, and then they disappear. And then you see cars, and they disappear. And then all of a sudden, it's just you 200 people on this plane. And everything below you doesn't really matter. That's kind of what happens when you ascend the totem pole of power. The further you go up, the less humans you see, and the more numbers you see, and the less you are connected to them. That's kind of what happens with this Hicks problem. When you're asking Hicks, where are the trillions of dollars, or billions, I think it's billions, right?
Yeah.
Billions. Where are the
$800 billion a year? It's roughly
damn near
what
a
the
trillion,
defense budget
damn near
is.
a trillion.
Yep.
Where are the billions of dollars that are missing? And they go, what do you care? It's not your business. It's the military. It's like, okay. But it's the military that's funded by us. You understand that, right? And I don't think you understand how the military is funded. It's like, well, I don't think we can any longer conversate on this subject because you're clearly not willing to land the fucking plane and come back down to reality with the rest of us, that we're just as equal as you are, that we pay your bills, that we give you the power that you're lording over us. So, after that being said, where's the fucking money, Hicks? When do we start holding these people accountable? We can't hold them accountable to hold the other people accountable because God knows they're never going to hold the other people accountable because the people holding the other people accountable are accountable for other things that the other people that they're holding accountable are going to hold the other people accountable for.
David, you were trending awfully close to Alex Jones territory there.
He's fucking Lieutenant the Frog's gay. Like, God damn it. It's like, how do you expect us to take this seriously anymore? Oh, we might be under attack. Yeah, we're under attack by all the people that we trust. How do you trust any of these people?
Well, that we're told to trust.
Well, yes. We're under attack by them. And if they're willing to attack us, the people that we're supposed to trust, why would we trust anybody else in this world? That's all I got to say.
Yeah. And I mean, we're told, or, far too many people believe that, terrible regimes that devolved into tyranny and exterminated their own citizens to the tune of millions in the past, that, though that just happened at remote times and remote places completely separated from America, and America would never fall into that sort of tyranny. And, too many people walk around with that naive delusion about government in general, but in the American government in particular. And to that I say, look at how Kathleen Hicks reacts to a simple asking of, show me that you're not doing your job incompetently. Now, again, Stewart worded it much more diplomatically and much more kindly than that. I wouldn't have, but, I don't have near the platform Jon Stewart does, so he's probably better at interviewing people than me. But him simply asking that question, show me that you're doing your job competently. She got so angry, and you could see it in her, how she laughs off and gives him subtle little insults back to his, genuine question is, do you really think that person with absolute power with that sort of mentality, who is that brittle to any sort of criticism to her job performance. You think that person's going to be a totally judicious, level-headed ruler of humanity if she were to be the empress for a day? Absolutely not. And people like her predominate the upper echelons of government, especially the federal government, because as David's plane analogy was super apt, they are the furthest removed from you and me. You know, your state government, for us in Florida and Tallahassee or wherever your state capital is much closer to you. Your county is closer than that. Your city is closer than that. Your school board is closer than that. You know, the further away the level of government gets away from you, the more you are insignificant and unviewable to them. They don't even care that you exist. Like David said, you're a number. You're a pawn to be used to expand their power or wealth. So, you know, let's finally, once and for all, if you haven't already, I think the self-selected group of people that follow this podcast have already reached the conclusion that government is not to be trusted, that they don't have our best interest in mind, and that the people that staff it are the worst that humanity has to offer. But to any extent that you have friends or family member that have not reached that conclusion yet, show them that clip. Ask them if a friend treated them and talked to them the way she responded to Jon Stewart, if that person would be a friend anymore, and then show that that friend now has control over about $800 billion of assets and is leaving the service personnel that she allegedly cares about to starve on food stamps while she says, what do you care where the money went?
And a little caveat that I want to add before we wrap this up is that Jon Stewart is fucking famous. He was a comedian before, and then he cut his teeth on The Daily Show, which, while he was on it, was regarded as more real news than the real news. So this dude's plugged in. This dude's an activist. This dude knows, granted, on all subjects, we don't totally agree with him. Well, we meaning certain members of this podcast.
He's pretty shitty on guns.
Well, there's that. But then other things we can agree with him on. So we can have a beer with him. Anyway, all I'm saying is, like, if she's willing to do this to a famous person, a guy that everyone knows his name. Yeah. You say Jon Stewart, everyone, I know, I got him. Daily Show, yeah. She's willing to downrate him. What do you think she thinks of you out there? Me, Dane. We're on the 141st.
We're higher than that now. Don't sell us short.
Australian podcast, political podcast. Okay? It's funny because I had to bring it up because
I know. That's where we started out when we, yeah.
All right. Anyway, all that being said, Dane, Epstein, did he kill himself or not?
He did not, but also people that share catchy buzzwords on social media are not terrorists.
Really?
I know. It's shocking to learn, right? So the FBI had some recent document leaks. Actually, they weren't document leaks. I want to say a think tank. Yeah, the Heritage Foundation's Oversight Project submitted a FOIA request for documents to the FBI, just trying to see, you know, what are the spooks over at the FBI worried about now? You might recall that we talked on some podcast episodes long ago about how, you know, they are now lumping everything from libertarians all the way down to, you know, people who are just marginally suspect of what government's up to.
You know what, Dane?
As domestic terrorists.
It's just nice to know they're watching.
I know.
Thanks, guys.
Listen, if you're going to watch, at least like and share our memes.
No shit. Come on,
you
guys.
You rad bastards. So anyway, the Heritage Foundation says, hey, turn us over your documents. Let's see what you guys are focusing on in terms of targeting your domestic terrorists and stuff like that. And phrases, common internet phrases such as based or a red pill are now linked as far as the FBI is concerned, when they're scraping social media to find out if you deserve to be black bagged.
Don't you say
are now linked with extremism.
Of course it is.
So,
you know what's
that's how broad the net goes, folks. It did not stop with Alex Jones. Once they cast that net, eventually we're all going to be wrapped up in
You know what's extreme? It's putting Asian provocateurs in BLM protests. Yeah. It's putting Asian provocateurs in the January 6th. It's convincing an 18-year-old to blow up a bomb. The whole time he's like, should I do this? And then all of a sudden they're like, no, you have to do it. And then he goes, okay. And he presses the button. They're like, we got you, you son of a bitch. And then, what else is extreme is like having 12 of the 14 conspirators to abduct a government official in Minnesota. Was it Minnesota?
Yeah.
Being FBI agents.
Yeah, yeah.
Isn't that weird?
It was Michigan.
That's pretty extreme. Like if this was peanut butter, I would say like, the Tennessee 3 were like creamy. I'd say January 6th was like chunky. And I'd say the FBI is extreme. Like it's just straight peanuts. It's just straight peanuts in there.
I mean, at this point, the FBI is a domestic spy agency / terror agency itself that would make the German Stasi in the Eastern Germany behind the Iron Curtain would make them blush.
Don't worry, I didn't get it either.
And the Stasi was widely regarded as even being worse in terms of the way it treated East German citizens than even were their sister agencies back home in Mother Russia. The FBI has taken their blueprint and maximized it to the nth degree. And in terms of Epstein not killing himself, the corollary here is this is par for the course for the FBI. It's long been known that what was the dickhead's name that like led it for the longest time? J. Edgar Hoover. He used the FBI as a weapon against his political enemies. He targeted a lot of people that the FBI considered to be communist sympathizers at the time. But also there was that famous letter written to Martin Luther King about, blackmailing him over his infidelities to his wife and saying, yeah, you might as well just come clean or we're going to character assassinate you. Oh, never mind the fact that they ultimately ended up actual assassinating him. The FBI has been doing this to political enemies since its inception. So don't be shocked by this. I mean, I guess if anything, if you want to be shocked that, you using common internet parlance like based or red pill now gets you put on an FBI watch list for being a domestic extremist.
Well, what's next?
Maybe
Dane?
be shocked by that. But I mean, I would suggest don't even be shocked by that because it's been a not so long time coming.
What's next, Dane? If you press a dislike button on any of the president's speeches, you become a terrorist?
Yeah, if you go on a Dylan Mulvaney post and call him.
Again, it's getting super 1984. It's like they're trying to ruin the internet for all of us.
Oh, yeah. I think they realize that it is a tool equal to or greater in our hands of combating them than it is for them spying on us.
It used to be so easy. Well,
so they're trying to run us off of it.
That's why they hate the leaker, right? That's why they hate all these Assange and Snowden. That's why they hate them, because they come out and they say everything that you think they're doing. Like, that's why they hate Elon. They used to suck Elon's, I don't know how big it is, reproductive organ. And then all of a sudden he comes out and buys Twitter and now he's the devil. Now, what's her name? God damn it. She's from Charmed. She's like, I'm never going to buy a Tesla again.
Alyssa Milano.
Thank you. I'm going to trade in my Tesla because Elon Musk is a Nazi. He's a Nazi. I'm going to trade in my Tesla and I'm going to buy the Volkswagen. Like,
you mean stairs and tiny mustache.
You mean the car literally named the car of the people in German that was made by the Nazi party? I don't want to look. I'm not here to make waves. All I'm saying is that.
Who are you kidding, David? Of course we're here to make waves.
I'm just
That's what this
saying,
podcast is all about.
Can you connect the dots for 1 second? They clearly aren't on your side. They clearly are being used by they're the strong arm of the government. There's 4 arms of the government, and that's the strong arm of the government. Like there's the legislative, judicial, and how many of the third one? The executive. And then there's
somebody
the fourth
didn't
one.
watch his Schoolhouse Rock episode.
Well, why would I? They lied to me. They said they were there for me. It's not. And the fourth arm,
the fourth one is the entrenched bureaucracy.
Correct.
I mean, it's
so
the
that's
unelected.
All it used to be.
Yeah.
That's all it used to be. All they had to do was say, hey, CNN, NBC, Fox News, whatever. This is the story. This is what you're going to tell people. This is how we're going to divide them. And this is how we're going to conquer. Fine. But now there's a fifth.
Boy, if we could only go back to those simpler times.
Oh, it was so simple. You just watched the evening news for an hour and you knew what was going on in the world. But now you have this little variant called the internet that we can solve any of the cases. So what do we got to do? To clamp that down. We don't need free information in this world. So what happens? The CIA, the FBI, they say, if you think other than what we're telling you, you're a terrorist.
Yep.
And again, it trickles on down the road. And then now we can cancel you. Now we can deplatform you. Now you don't have a voice. Now you don't have a bank account. Now you can't feed your family. Now you die off. So all the dissenters die off, but we don't have to see it because they starve. We don't behead them in a public court anymore. But I digress, Dane. Like I said, waveless. Totally waveless. I'm a lake.
So listen, everybody, the FBI has been at this game for a long time. This is not new. Like I said, what is only could be arguably considered new is how wide the net is. But as all arguments with government creep go, is or government mission creep, is that the net only expands includes the fact that it's growing, only goes in one direction and it expands. It never gets more narrow. It never gets more focused on actual bad actors. In which case, if it was actually only focused on bad actors, they'd all just be arresting each other. But no, it always just goes wider and wider till eventually it's all of us, and they've created a society of terrified citizens that in order to save their own necks will turn on their neighbors. And that's exactly what they want.
Self-policing state.
Yep.
What could be better?
That is the ultimate win in their book, because if they're too draconian and on the nose with it, literally throwing people in cages and black bagging them off the street into the back of vans,
they're inclusive.
There might be some public backlash to that. But if they can get you to tell on your neighbor and give you a sense of belonging, like you're a part of the good guys and you're doing the right thing for doing it, then they've won. And that's exactly what they're going for.
Anyway, well, with that cheery note.
So with that being said, we're talking about a good guy who, conversely to those scumbags who want to divide and conquer us and constantly spy on us and erode away every right and liberty that we have as freeborn human beings that don't derive our rights from the losers that try to lord it over us. We have Jack Teixeira, who it was discovered, well, not discovered, but it came out this week, is the leaker of earlier in the week, it was discovered that classified documents from the Pentagon were placed into a Discord server dealing with the popular child's video game Minecraft. And the source of these leaks were not known for a few days. First time I saw the story was earlier this week on a Monday. But by Thursday, it was either Thursday or no, I think Friday they arrested him. Thursday they knew who it was, but Friday they arrested him. Friday, April 14th, they arrested him. And he is a part of, I want to say, the Massachusetts National Guard in the Air Force, had high-level security clearance, so he had access to intel regarding the United States' involvement in and surveillance of the ongoing war in Ukraine. And he posted some 100-plus documents to a Discord server, which made its way to 4chan. And then next thing you know, these documents were everywhere. And now Mr. Teixeira is in deep, deep shit.
By the way, where did Snowden come from?
NSA, yeah. But I think he was a military contractor before that.
Sure, but he was still in there, and that's how the documents crossed his.
Of course.
And of course, he shouldn't have, because they were classified.
Right.
But he had an onus to the American people to let them know what these documents were saying. So they shouldn't have been classified. The people had the right to know, and he took action.
Yeah.
So that sounds a lot like what Teixeira did.
Yeah.
Eerily like what Teixeira did. Only Teixeira didn't sneak out of the cloak of darkness before he released the files, so they got to him before he could get out.
Yeah, the kind of gray era between Teixeira and Snowden and Assange really isn't even in the same bubble because Assange was just a publisher.
Didn't bring him up.
The person who actually leaked the documents that got Assange in trouble was Bradley Manning. Later changed his name to Chelsea Manning, but he leaked the documents.
They got to him.
That
sorry,
yeah.
Couldn't help myself. Sorry, don't mean to insult
anybody. He leaked
anybody.
the documents to Assange, which Assange published. But Snowden, like David was saying, released documents with the purpose of letting the American people know, like, hey, your government's spying on you, and not only are they spying on you, they're lying when they're asked publicly, hey, are you spying on American people without a warrant?
And remember that accountability
blatant violation of the Fourth Amendment. And Snowden's purpose was to warn the American people that this was going on. Well, Teixeira inhabits a bit of a gray area because he did neither of those things. And ostensibly, he was not even trying to share the documents with a wider audience. He had a Discord server, like I said, where they talked about stuff on, Minecraft related stuff, of about 20 to 30 individuals, some of them teenagers that, followed Teixeira or whatever. And he just wanted to share the documents to that Discord server to keep those 20 or 30 individuals informed of world events because he thought that was important, and that it was never intended that those documents would leave that Discord server. Now, of course, you could say, well, of course, dummy, it's going to leave. It's the internet. Once it goes on there, it's, it'll spread, super fast.
Welcome to the social media generation.
But intent matters in these types of quote unquote crimes. I don't consider it a crime. Telling us what our government, who's supposed to be working for us, is doing, I just consider that responsible oversight.
May I?
But
an analogy?
Yeah.
So if 4 kids play hooky and cut out early from school, granted, they did something wrong. But then when they're playing down by the creek and find a washed up dead body, what takes precedent, Dane? Does the fact that they gypped their social studies class take precedent? Or does the fact that they found a dead body take precedent and there's been a murder that's occurred?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we'd all focus on the dead body.
I would hope.
Yeah.
I would hope.
So you might be wondering, well, what's in the Teixeira documents that is getting him in trouble, because I was just, David and I were talking about this before we hit the record button on this episode. And we're like, you remember when the Snowden stuff happened and everybody was, the first thing that the deep state did to try to discredit Snowden was appeal to the American culture of, wrap yourself in the flag and subordinate yourself to the troops, right? Everything that has to do with the military is sacred. And don't you ever put a military member in jeopardy or else you're just the scum of the earth. And that's what they tried to say Snowden did, right? That his leaks, compromised sources and methods and, one of their favorite buzz phrases. And it put American service personnel at risk in country, wherever they were stationed or undercover or whatever. And I thought it was funny when I started looking for Jack Teixeira stuff, and it was like everything was about him. Who was he as an individual? What was his purpose? Why did he leak these documents? It was not, hey, we're going to try to character assassinate this guy by saying that he compromised other people's identities and stuff like that. And I thought that was funny. I was like, why isn't character assassination their go-to? They want to make you hate the guy, make him the villain, so they're not the villains. Kind of which way did he go? Pointing fingers, kind of situation. And that's not what they did. Well, once I was able to finally track down an article that even remotely touched on what type of information was disclosed in the documents, it made sense. It made sense why it was all Teixeira and who he is and his motivations and not what was in the documents, because what's in the documents is high fucking treason on the part of the Biden administration. Because not only under the Constitution is it the purview of the legislative branch to issue a declaration of war before the executive is allowed to go to war. a tradition which has been completely exploded for quite some time. But in the 70s, the Congress passed the War Powers Resolution intended to rein in overzealous executives who wanted to rush into war without asking the legislature to exercise its constitutional duties and declare war first.
That's worked so well, by the way.
For President Biden to intervene, as he's promised not to do, I'm not putting boots on the ground in Ukraine, but to fly drones, American weaponry over Ukraine, to have boots in the region, if not in country. These are acts of war. These are acts of war against as we've said before, the most heavily nuclear armed state on the planet, Russia, followed closely by the United States. These are in no uncertain term acts of war. So it is a very real possibility, and this is not hyperbole at all, that Teixeira sharing these documents, regardless of what his motivations were, to just simply show off to his friends or to tell the American people what the government was doing, it's not hyperbole to suggest that him sharing these things stopped World War III. Because the United States regime was escalating, as was made evidence by these documents. And if nothing else, if this shames them into pulling back and not getting more involved in Ukraine, as they should have never been from the start, then we may have taken at least a marginal step back away from the brink. So it doesn't matter what his motivations are. The fact that he did that, and that might be the consequence of it, is that the United States pulls back on the reins a little bit. That is a net positive, not only for American citizens, but for all of humanity.
But let's not forget, there was a president not so long ago that was held accountable for lying to the American people. Was it about bombs? Was it about illegal operations in another country? Was it about...
I think it was about fellatio in the Oval Office.
That's exactly what it was about, Dane. We had a president ask what the definition of is. Within the own asking of the question, he used the word that he was asking the definition for. So he clearly had previous knowledge. All I'm saying is we held our president-elect, Bill Hillary Clinton, to tribunal impeachment and indictment of getting a blowjob in the Oval Office. Did that. We held him accountable. I think that's the last time any politician has ever been held accountable. So what we're saying is,
was he though? He was impeached, but he wasn't removed from office.
He wasn't
was he really held accountable?
Well, he came out and said, I lied to you, American people. I did get that Hummer, and it was good. We were playing hide and seek, and all of a sudden it got really randy. Then I had a cigar, and she goes, you want to do something fun? I said, you betcha. Anyway.
You betcha.
You betcha. Anyway. If you're inside, you're inside. Anyway, all I'm saying is, like, I could let an Oval Office blowjob go if you hold the person accountable for lying to the... Again, it's not about like escalating at this point. It's like he was willing to go out and say, I don't have boots on the ground in Ukraine, and walk back into his office knowing full fucking well that he was escalating shit to a point where it's...
If they're not, they're literally, here's the border from Ukraine, and the boots are like right on the edge of the border.
So when he said the statement, he probably walked back into the office and said, let him go. Because when he said the statement, they weren't technically on the ground, but then they moved in. That's the funny business. They weren't on the ground. I watched a war with a president of a secretary of the Internal Affairs, Rocky Balboa. He is fighting a Russian communist known as El Cuchamadre, otherwise known as Dolph Lundgren. And he won. So I didn't order those boots. Nobody wants boots. Anyway, all I'm saying is, like, This is nuclear holocaust we're talking about. And I know if you're just watching on your phone, you're watching on your computer, you like doing that, right? You probably watch other things there. You probably listen to other things there. You probably engage with most of the world there. A nuclear blast doesn't have to actually land for an EMP to distribute itself. And you know what EMPs do, Dane?
Destroy electronics.
So it does affect you. So you can't put your little Instagram post up of you making brownies on Saturday. And you can't do your little TikTok dance anymore. And you can't tell that other red-blooded American that he's wrong because he believes in guns and you're standing up for the rights of the American citizens by saying that you need to give it up because I believe that you shouldn't have them. Like, you can't do that anymore. It's all gone. We're back to fucking Stone Age.
Yeah. And I mean, even hitting a little more close to home than your Instagram posts for all you blue no matter who riding with Biden people in the major cities around the United States, New York City, LA, Chicago, things like that.
Guess who's targeted first?
Well, not only who's targeted first, but if any portion of the power grid goes down, you all have about a nanosecond worth of food. And if you think that you're,
we're not conspiracy theorists.
Your other blue, no matter who neighbor that you've heretofore been in agreement with on everything isn't going to turn on you just as quick when there's one little chicken leg left between the two of you.
No, wait. What are your pronouns? Don't kill me. My pronouns are he, she, it, her. What do you need to hear?
You people who want to excuse everything Biden does just because he's not Orange Man, you're the ones that are the most at risk. It's not those rednecks out in flyover country that own 10 acres apiece and can grow their own food and are self-sufficient. It's you people in the big cities if the power grid goes down. So this isn't any sort of playing political favorites or anything like that. But, you live in your blue utopias and you think everything's just fantastic. And why would we question, what Biden's doing? He's the president, duly elected in a free and fair election. He can do whatever he wants. He's the commander in chief. Okay. But if a Jack Teixeira is not out there calling it out and hopefully getting the United States to step back from the brink a little bit, your life could be a hell of a lot rougher really fast just by virtue of where you live and around millions and millions of people competing for scarce resources.
Here's the thing. We are all still in this together. Whether or not you think that blue states are better than red states.
Not me, bitch. I'm running away to the mountains. I don't have anything to do with any of you. I'm caring for me and mine, and I'm protecting what I got, and leave me out of it. Go crazy and kill each other. I don't want any part of it. Sorry.
That's where Dane goes off the rails.
And that's where this
podcast loses its followers. All we're trying to say.
No, the followers are allowed to the compound.
No, they're not. Fuck out of here. We only have so much food.
Especially the Australian
We only have so much food. All I'm trying to say is this is the time now. This is the time to turn the wheel. This is the time to accept everybody, not force everybody to accept everybody else's. Not force the majority to accept the minority's idealisms. It's not a time to draw lines. It's a time to come together. Because a nuclear bomb doesn't care what your pronouns are. A nuclear bomb does not care if you voted for Biden. A nuclear bomb does not care if you voted for Trump. A nuclear bomb wipes you out all the same. And then guess what? We're all under attack. And then guess what? All of us come together because we realize all the lines that were dividing us right now weren't real. None of these lines that are coming up in our society today that divide all of humanity are real. They're fictitious, they're ethereal, and we only adhere to them because it benefits us in the short run. This is long run. This is humanity. We're all humans. We're all Americans. If you can't right the ship now, if you can't start having a conversation with somebody that wants to own guns and you don't think that guns should be legal, if you can't have that conversation, then you're nuking your child. If you can't have a conversation with somebody that believes in abortion when you're pro-life, you're nuking your child. Shut the fuck up. If you can't have a conversation with a black person when you're a white person, yellow person when you're a brown. I don't give a fuck. We are still humans. We are all Americans. We are all on the same side, and we all need to hold these people accountable. Going back to Culture Corner, sorry, we skipped over that one a little bit. We have to hold them accountable. We have to hold them accountable with our votes, with our words, with our funds, with this, that, and the other. We are the ones that are together. Don't let them divide us. They need to serve us, but right now we're serving them. And if we keep serving them, they will lead us into nuclear holocaust because they know they're going to come out on the other side with all of their billions looking just fine. And there's going to be about 50% less of us on the entire planet. Not just us, everybody. And that just might be what they're after. So if you want to stop that, stop bitching at your friend, your neighbor, your loved one for liking Trump posts. Doesn't matter. Stop bitching at your friend for buying another AR-15. Stop showing them clips, sharing this, that, and the other. Come together. Come together and vote with your heart, but at the same time, make this country work again. That's all there's my soapbox. I'm taking it off. Dane. Last words?
Thank God that kumbaya movement is over. I don't like half of you. Half of you can go kick fucking rocks for all I care.
Look at him. Look at this son of a bitch right over here. I'm looking to throw water on the fire and he's accelerant.
No, I kid. Only partially. But if nothing else, I hope that we can at least come together on this one topic, and that is Jack Teixeira is a hero. Free Jack. Hashtag Jack did nothing wrong. Because the people who he told on are supposed to be working for you. That theme of David's very ecumenical come together, kumbaya talk, I agree with 10,000%. They work for you. So there is no such thing as spilling their secrets, or of course, they're going to call it illegal and they're going to prosecute him because guess what? They write the rules. They write the rules that they exempt themselves and their buddies from, but they will vehemently enforce those rules on you. So when you spill their beans and make them look bad, of course, they're going to prosecute Teixeira and toss him in a cage and throw away the key, and he's terrible scum of the earth, and he's probably a Russian sympathizer, and he's this and when they're going to drag out every little thing they possibly can to character assassinate this kid. And yes, he is a kid. I think he's like 21 years old. That's what they're going to do. But that's only them showing their hand that, like we talked about in the other segments on this episode, they don't care what you have to say. To David's plane analogy, they're at 10,000 feet and you're not even a dot to them. So in, very Trumpian fashion where Trump says, they're only coming after me because I'm standing between them and you. They're only coming after
me because I'm standing in front of them and you.
That is very real when it comes to somebody in Teixeira's shoes, in Snowden's shoes, in Assange's shoes. When the ones calling out the liars for their lies are the ones that are imprisoned, rather than the liars themselves, then you're ruled by criminals and thieves. That makes it about as clear and obvious as it is. So to any extent that David's calls for peace and cooperation between us don't fall on deaf ears, let's at least come together on that one topic of holding these sons of bitches to account, because they are quickly running us to the edge of a cliff. And if they had it their way, it would run us completely off of it. But there's a hell of a lot more of us than them to put a stop to that if we wanted to.
And fuck their, F-15s? Is that what Biden said? And then in case, just a cherry on top, Obama's cabinet was always about open and honest and being truthful. And who released the documents during his campaign?
Snowden. Well, during his presidency.
During his presidency. And then what did Obama try to do?
Didn't try. Threatened to throw him in a cage to the extent that he had to get exile in one of our enemies.
So what they say is not what they do.
Correct.
Again. all that being said,
exhibit quadruple Q at this point. I lost track of how many
Dane Wise
for that proposition.
Mother Lippin Ganji. Where can they find this episode?
They can find episode 141 at wmdpodcast.com/141. They can get it on any podcast catcher. Just search Weapons of Meme Destruction. They can get the video on YouTube, Rumble, and Odyssey. They can link up with us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Tribel, and Float. And then for $5 a month over at the Support Our Work tab on the website, wmdpodcast.com, they can get into the private members-only Facebook page. But no matter how they choose to support us, the number one most important, well, two most important things, it's like 1A and 1B, is A, join the email list over at the website, because that's how you'll always keep contact with us, no questions asked. And B, just like, subscribing, sharing, telling your friends about it, about the podcast, helps us grow. And that's how we eventually make our own money, so that we don't have to be subscription whores asking you for money. Although I have no shame and will continue to ask, despite David's skin crawling every time I do. But yeah, if you help us grow the podcast and we can get some money flowing through this bad boy with some ad revenue, then we thank you for your service in advance.
With all that disgusting stuff being said, as always, kiddos, stay safe, but more importantly, stay free.